Before we start, we would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we're recording on. For me, that is the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation.
And for me, it's the Wurundjeri peoples of the Kulin Nation. Don't ever do sourdough at home as your first foray into bread making. It takes 2 days and it is an absolute fucking ball ache.
I personally couldn't think of anything worse.
And it's not looking good already.
I would never even try. My bread would look like, remember I used to tell you when I used to try to bake when I was a kid and I could only make rock cakes? It would come out like rock.
Your hands would be really good with sourdough because
they're so sweaty
wet in the beginning.
I'm finding out more and more as I get older how many good things my sweaty hands are for.
Sweaty hands. You got yourself some little sweaty hands. Welcome to the new episode of Us. Hello.
Hello.
How are you today? It's me in the park with every dog that goes past.
Hello. Oh, hey, what's your name?
What have you been up to, girl? Woman?
I know, I don't mind you calling me girl. You just have to ask, you know, and I'm fine with it.
You're a grown-ass woman.
I am a grown-ass woman.
With big tits.
What's your obsession with my tits? Yes, they're small. Why do you always have to bring that up? Are you like wanting a piece of these little tiny titties or what?
No, I'm glad that they're small. I'm obsessed because otherwise they would be like mountains.
Look, even when I do it, it just looks like a little boy playing with their chest. But you know, I have a handful.
And I can be damn well obsessed with whatever I want.
Oh, sorry about it. I'm sorry I brought it up. But seriously, we haven't spoken really on the phone for like 2 full days. Like, what the hell?
We're out of lockdown. It's so exciting. You're out of lockdown. We're out of lockdown. We're all out of lockdown. Yay.
Let's not talk about lockdown.
You're the voice. Try and understand it.
Not this again. I don't like talking about lockdowns much because, God, it's exhausting. Like, I think everybody's sick of talking about it. But one thing is, I am still stuck in Sydney. As you know, I came here at the end of August because I got a job and Big Mama Angie has a mortgage. So, look, I need to work. I'm a single gal with a house that requires a lot of my time. So I took the job thinking I'd be in and out, and I'm not. Anastasia shut the borders and I applied on the 19th of September and she still hasn't let me back in.
I know. And you know what? It's so frustrating because it's so out of your hands.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Like you can't control it. You can't do anything. You can't talk to anyone. Everyone that you call is like reading a script.
They are. I didn't know the call centres were just literally people, their job is just to read information out every day that you Google on Queensland Health website. Because I'm like, wait, can you just give me a rough idea? Because originally I applied for hotel quarantine and the numbers must be astronomical because it's been the 19th September and I still haven't heard. And then there's this new home quarantine trial, but the rules in order to be able to get approved, eligible for it, are next level and I didn't pass.
You don't even know if you've gone back down on the bottom of the list or you're on a completely different list.
There was 2 lists.
You're right. So now you're over on another list. And do they put you at the bottom of that list?
Nobody tells you anything. I think I'm still just on the hotel quarantine list but didn't get approved for home quarantine. But then apparently November 19th.
Good day.
All there is home quarantine. And it's your birthday.
Mm-hmm. But I certainly don't want you to be in quarantine on my actual birthday. That would be awful. That's so far away.
I know. It's been like, it's wild to think that I signed the contract with no idea thinking that I'd be here potentially even until Christmas, some of them are saying, which is fine. I always, there's so many people that are so much worse off and I get that. But one thing I found when I had my big cry when I didn't get accepted for home quarantine is somebody said to me, well, you've just got to think of people that are worse off. And I always do, don't get me wrong. But that's like saying when somebody has a really big achievement and you want to celebrate it to that achievement, but then someone goes, yeah, but there's someone else out there that got a way better job than you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, well, No, I still want to celebrate your achievement. Of course there's people that are doing better than you out there. My situation isn't as bad as some, but I can still feel shit about it.
Yeah, you actually always acknowledge, like you've already acknowledged to me how, you're staying in a great place. You've got friends in Sydney. You've got all these things. You've already acknowledged that. But it's okay to say, I want to go home.
Yeah, when you just don't know, the fear of the unknown, like every day just waiting. And
It's a shit situation, and it's okay to say, I'm okay, but it's a
I'm
shit
sad.
situation.
Yeah, and I miss me premiere. Me
Oh,
first
no,
big girl premiere, and I can't go back for it.
That's such a shame.
Well, that's my work is one of my favorite things. People have their partners and their kids and their whatever. Like my work is my thing. It's my shtick, my mental health, my friends, my work.
You're not even working while you're stuck in Sydney.
Oh, you know me. I love to work. It's my favorite thing to do.
That's just how we're the opposite like that. I love that we're so
Yeah,
opposite.
you hate working.
I do like a work, but just, half a day.
But that's my story.
Hopefully it will change really, really soon.
Yeah, all you have to do is wait. And I think I'm one of those people that's very good at surrendering to my experiences. I can really surrender. I know a lot of people are just like, I want out and this is what I want, and they fester on it. Whereas I'm quite good. You can sit me anywhere and I will make do with the situation. I just think a lot of people don't understand it or just think why. But yeah, I'm stuck in conclusion. And so are a lot of other people. And I feel ya. You're not alone, and we're going to get through this.
There was a thing on TikTok where this guy asked, ladies, what does sex feel like for you?
Imagine having to ask that, like, far out.
If a man is really serious saying while you're, with someone, like, you're in a relationship and they say to you, what does it feel like for a girl? Like what, because I know what it's like for me. What is it like? And then you start talking about it. It's all sexy and you get into it and, oh, it's so lovely. But, yeah, he got some awesome replies.
That is wild. One of my favourite ones is when you go to the fridge because you're starving but you leave empty-handed.
Oh.
How big is that letdown when you go to the fridge and you just stare at it for ages and you're like, oh, and then you're just like, nah.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
TikTok is funny because of the amount. There's a lesbian TikTok. So they see this kind of thing and they must be pulling their hair out because it is only really a cisgendered man thing that, they really can't bring a woman to orgasm. And I mean,
when they're so used to being told they're good at everything else, so they just assume they're good at sex and they're just deeply average.
What about this comment? When someone is scratching your backs and misses the part that is actually itchy.
It's so mean. Like you're about to sneeze and it never happens.
Oh, that's exactly what it's like.
Oh my God, how many times where you're like, okay, that's good. And then they get so excited because they think it's good. So then they're like, nah, and you're just like, that part was good when I said stay there.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is I've found as I'm getting older, sex for me as a cisgender woman is all about communication. For so long growing up, I was made feel like I should really be like this sexual object that should make a man come because then he feels good, so you feel good. And then I kind of got over that and I was more like, well, you know what? This is a power thing. I know how much power I have when I make a man come and I get my needs met because they're getting their needs met, right? But I would never think about myself. I was just too busy focusing on him coming that I was like, hang on, what about me? And now I'm getting older. I'm like, I've really had to tap out of my mind a lot and work on my somatic response because sex is all about like feeling and smelling and tasting. But for so long I was just like, oh God, does that angle look good? Does that look good? And now I'm just like, no, it's my turn to be freaking sexual.
Absolutely. I was listening to Radio National, which I often do, and they were interviewing that Chantel Otten, who's written the sex book, and she's with Dylan Alcott, the Olympian who's in the wheelchair. They're an amazing couple. She's a sex therapist and she, has written this amazing new book, The Sex Ed You Never Had.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. The interview was so good. She's so all over what she knows. And the interviewer was asking her about consent and asking her about sex with a disability, adults, and she was talking all about communication. She was like, because he also asked her about porn, and she was like, we have to understand that porn is there for entertainment. It's not there for education.
Yes.
And that was something I've never actually really thought of, and it's so true. But she was talking about sex, it's not really performative. It's about communicating and making yourself have pleasure.
Yeah.
And making sure that someone else has pleasure. And that's not necessarily a good-looking thing.
No, it shouldn't be. I think we were made to feel that we should always look good for sex, but
that's porn. Porn's made us think that.
For both men and women. And I feel sorry for men too, and this cisgender men in this sense too, because that's all that they were told by, the big wigs of the sex industry, that women should have this, cleanly shaved box and no hair out of place and have that like sexy face. And it's like, that's what I would watch growing up. So I was like, oh, but I have to look sexy all the time to make this man aroused. And then I was just like, far out. As you get older, you do care less, but I still feel it embedded in me, and something I want to unlearn is that I don't have to look good for my person to be turned on. If you are going to have good sex, it's all about the communication and the chemistry. And I personally love talking through sex and telling the person I'm with what I want, or asking them, is that good? Because you don't want to be sitting there like, going to town on something because you think it's going to be good, but they're sitting there and they're like, you burn them a bits.
Exactly. Jesus.
But sex for women has definitely, we need to talk about it more. And there's actually a few different things we should put in the show notes. I follow this. Obviously, Georgia Grace is an amazing one, and I'm doing her course at the moment. And there's this other one, I think it's Sex with Emily or Amy. She's amazing. She taps into all like somatic responses. And, ladies, we really do need to be more open about it.
Yeah, we really do. And you know what? It's hilarious. I just had this funny memory from obviously about 22, 3 years ago, when my niece was about 18 months old, and she was on one of those pull-out couches, the kid foam ones.
Yeah, I used to love
that fold
those.
up, and she was lying on that watching the Wiggles, and she was had her fingers in, having a good fiddle around with the flaps and everything, and having a great old time. And I've walked past, and I'm like, "You're right," and she just looked at me. She's like, and went back to the TV, and I looked at her mum, and her mum's like, just shrugged her shoulders and kind of like, and I was like, that is so good that we don't, didn't tell her to stop doing that.
Yes.
Stop, that kind of thing. And obviously, sexual education comes later, but that whole exploration of your body, it starts at such a young age, and, just how quickly we will beat or shame a human out of doing that is really quite heartbreaking to think that we do that, and religion plays a big role in that. So don't even get me started.
Oh God, that's like a completely other story, that the guilt.
Especially for women and young girls, to encourage them to be open and talk, and we've still got a long way to go.
We do. And sex should not feel like an acting career. That's one of them. That's one of the TikToks.
It's like
you stop acting.
Career.
We don't need to pretend for people. Like, if it's shit, just talk about it.
Angie,
Yeah.
what do you want to talk to me about these days? What's on your mind?
So I really, really enjoyed this. Did this come from me? Yeah, it was an inbox I received from a listener about pronouns. And this is what they said. They think that it's an area that many people are scared or embarrassed to touch on. I've always kept my Instagram private from family and friends until this week. I don't know why. But I want to normalize different pronouns, but I'm already thought of as a crazy feminist. I feel that in my family, and don't want to put them on my profile for that reason. I'm a 32-year-old female and identify that way. This is something that we've spoken about a bit, and I feel it's very close to my heart. Always has. Just anything where a group of people want to be heard and are saying something, I'm always willing to listen. And I think pronouns, it's huge at the moment, and it's just like anything. I feel once we get used to something, it's going to be like second nature. It's like riding a bike. When you first saw that bike, you were wigged out. It's this thing with 2 wheels. You didn't know what it was, but your family created space for you to be like, get on it. Keep giving it a go. And now you're like, cool, there's a bike.
And it was hard at first. It was really hard to learn how to ride it. And you kept falling over, but you kept getting back on and giving it another red hot go because you knew it was part of the community, a part of society. It's what we all did. So you get there. You eventually go, I'm going to be a really good bike rider.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll be in the Olympics at the Tour de France, but I think I might be taking it a little bit too far. But it is like that. It really is like learning anything new. It's a struggle to begin with, and then it just becomes, what do you say, like off the back of your hand, like I bloody know it, like the back of my hand.
Yeah, that's it. I think people just get so much. It's the fear in them makes them not want to learn. But just like anything, everything at first is scary until you get to know it. And I feel like there's a few notes I really want to make sure I point out of this, because gender identity was forced on us, obviously, when we were younger. When you're a girl, you know, you like dolls. If you're a boy, you like, I don't know, whatever, football and whatnot. But that's gender expressions. And there's so much on it. Like, I'm currently hanging out with somebody that doesn't identify as either. And I think learning so much through this person, we really need to hold space for these people, because I'm a cis woman and I was born in the body that I identify with. Not everybody gets that. What's the word?
Luxury.
Yeah. And we really need to understand and hold space for these people, and realizing that, you know, pronouns are important. Listen and learn.
Be open. I think that people are just, they know what they know, they're used to what they're used to, and it's, you know, some people, they just don't care about other people. They're like, I don't give a shit. It's that whole, you know, anti-people, anti-this, anti-that. They're just looking for things to be anti, and this is just another one. I remember when Instagram brought out the pronouns.
Yes.
On your bio, I changed it immediately.
Me too. When I learned how to, I was like, I don't know. Again, I was like, I don't know how to do it, but I did it.
You learned, didn't you? You just kept trying until you got it. And you made a few mistakes along the way. You were fine.
Exactly.
So I think it's nice to know what people are, what they identify as themselves. It's respectful and it's kind. And that at the end of the day, if you can't be respectful and kind, then you really, really need to have a really good look within and ask yourself, am I the asshole?
Yeah, why are you not wanting to hold space for this?
Yeah, just to be respectful and kind. Why do you not want to be respectful and kind?
I think it's mostly, to be honest, I do find I've been spending a lot of time explaining, because a lot of people don't know, especially with non-binary, they don't get it because they never had to. So they're kind of like, wait, so they're born in a female body, but they don't identify with that. But if they want to learn, I'm so happy to sit there and be like, well, this is what I've learned, so I'm happy to pass this information on. But if you then are not wanting to learn and you're just like, nah, don't get it, they were born with a vagina, so they're a woman, I just think, don't. No, we have had the pleasure and the luxury of being born in the body that we want to be in. Not everybody does. And nobody knows their body better than themselves. So listen to that person. I read that somewhere recently and it really really stuck with me, because it's like, nobody knows. Nobody should tell you who you are. Only you know who you are.
I saw the best TikTok. It always comes down to TikTok with me. It was this family. It was I think even maybe a dodo thing. Like, it was done up. It was beautifully shot. But it was done in like 3 minutes. It was really short, and how this couple had a baby and they decided not to gender the baby and let the baby grow up and gender itself. And you're immediately just like, oh, how can you do that? Like, how's that going to work in society? Like, you know, you're just going to be having fights all the time with people. But the way it went through, you know, the story pretty quickly. I'm going to try to find it so I can share it on our socials, because it's such a beautiful, beautiful, like, they never thought of the child as a boy or a girl, the baby as a boy or a girl. So they gave it everything. They gave it every gendered toy. They gave it every colour. They just kept thinking, if they are a boy or a girl, they gave them a name. And the funniest part of the whole thing was watching the comments. The comments were filled with, oh my God, this was so brilliant to watch and it was so well done, but I hated the kid's name. I can't remember the kid's name. It was something like Symbol or something. Like, it was just a, you know, like Wind. Like, it was this really, and everyone took offence to the name, which was brilliant, really, because it certainly wasn't, you know, what the parents did. And by the time they had the child, let the child grow their hair, choose what they wanted to wear, choose what they wanted to play with. They were offered everything to play with, every experience. And I think when the child was 6, they said they were a boy, and they had their hair cut the way they wanted to have it cut. And it was so beautiful the way their parents just did hold that space for that child to grow and develop and make that choice. And they said, and that's the choice the child's made for now.
Yes.
Like, that may change.
And why does it matter so much? Like, we were just told from so young that it matters, and it really doesn't.
No. And you know what? I was at a friend's house about maybe 2 months ago, and her husband, and they've got 2 beautiful teenage boys. And I was talking about, I think I was even actually talking about you and that you were pansexual. And then I talked about something else, like cisgendered, and they were like, you know what? Because they felt safe enough to ask me, what does pansexual mean? What does, you know, bisexual, you know, we know what bisexual, and the 4 of them sat and listened to everything I explained to them. And they just took it on. They were just
That's what I love.
Oh, it's so good to know. So good to know. So 2 teenage boys who were just, and I wasn't telling them anything. I was telling them something that they didn't know, but it wasn't anything that was frightening. It wasn't anything that was weird or shameful. They were just like, yeah.
Yeah. There's so much more surrounding it now, which is absolutely, thank God. I mean, it's slowly but surely.
Yeah. And like anything, it just is a matter of time.
Exactly. And there's so much on it. We should put on our Angie and Yvie page. There's also this really good little podcast I was listening to. It was just about gender, and it's called My Amazing Body. We'll pop that on. My friend told me to listen to it, and I was learning so much about the difference between gender identity isn't the same as your sexuality, and you've really got to start learning more about that so you're not so fearful. But yeah, we'll pop that on our show notes as well.
And it's good.
Because I'm learning so much. I love it. Oh, one last thing before we wrap this. I loved this part of the podcast. It says a little boy said to his dad, not a boy, a guy at school, because obviously they'll learn way more about it than we did. It's hearts, not parts.
Oh, that's so true.
So take the time to listen, because we've all got a heart. We're all humans. Doesn't matter what your gender is. It's hearts, not parts. Be kind, learn. Frickin' learn. It's not hard. You didn't know what a bike was once, and now you do.
Yeah. Now you're popping monos. Bye.
You wheelies. Frickin' burnout.
Spokey dokies on your wheels. Well, that's us done for another episode, Angela Bernice Kent.
It sure is. Good chat, girl.
Good chat to you. Please head to Apple Pod. You do the outro.
All right. Please head to Apple Podcasts and rate and review the show. You can get in touch with us directly by emailing us, slide into our DMs. You know, we love a good DM slide, and we always love to hear if you have any questions, anything you want us to talk about, because you know what, we're open books, so come at us. Come at us, homies. We love you, and we'll speak to you next week.
Next week.